Hello, everyone, and welcome on into One Soccer, one-on-one with Jason deVos. I'm Andi Petrillo, and Jason deVos, many of us know him as a former national team player. You've been a part of Canada Soccer for many decades, Jason, and most recently, we've seen you on the sidelines alongside John Herdman and the men's national team. And now it has been announced that effective May 12th of 2023, you will take over as interim General Secretary. So first off, great to have you. Welcome aboard here in this conversation. How did this come about? How were you approached to take on this interim role?
Thanks for having me, Andy. It's great to be here. Last week, Earl Cochrane stepped down from the position of General Secretary, and then I had a conversation with Charmaine Crooks, the president of Canada Soccer's board, asking me whether I would be willing to step into this role and accept this responsibility. I didn't hesitate. I accepted that responsibility right away because I've got a great team of people around me. I think one of the great things about this organization that I've been involved with for the last 37 years of my life, since '86 when the men played in the World Cup for the last time, the first time ever. I fell in love with soccer and always wanted to represent this organization. And I look around at the people who work for Canada Soccer on the men's side, the women's side, the youth side, the governance side, the admin side. There's a lot of great people here, and I've got a lot of great teammates. So for me, it's about working with and supporting those people and helping to grow the game and to focus on football. And I think that's one of the exciting things about this opportunity is we get a chance to maybe hit the reset button a little bit and get back to focusing on what really matters, which is supporting players at every level of the game. And then at the highest end of the game, supporting our players to achieve success internationally.
Most recently, you've been supporting the players, as I mentioned, as an assistant coach alongside John Herdman. Is that a position you can still hold on to, or have you had to leave that post?
Yeah, unfortunately not. It's not going to be something I'll be able to continue. I love working with John and the staff and the players. They're just incredible human beings and the absolute very best at what they do in the world. And every opportunity I got to go into that environment, I took it because I knew it would help me become better at what I do. And it was a great learning opportunity. So unfortunately, I won't be able to continue to support the team and the group in that way, but I'll be supporting them in a different way, in a different role by obviously working as the interim general secretary.
I'm not going to say things to you that you don't already know. And that, of course, is the players wanting, obviously, more transparency, the players wanting better governance, and just somebody, who's been directly in contact with the players. I'm sure you've had certain conversations with them. And now that you take on this new role, do you recognize that challenge? And how do you plan on facing it head on in with the communication, open communication, and really creating this better environment for the players, which is something they've been asking for?
Yeah, it's a great question, Andy. I've lived that challenge. You talk to any one of my generation or even older who's represented Canada on the men's or the women's side. They've all got stories to tell about how challenging it was. And so I fully understand where the players are coming from. I fully understand their perspective on this. And I'm committed to doing everything I can to ensure that they have the resources that they need to succeed. The game's changed. We know so much more now about what high performance athletes need to be their very best and to perform. And through John and Bev, we've got two of the very best in the world at creating those environments for players to succeed. So a key part of my role will be to prioritize that and to rebuild those relationships and rebuild that trust. And support our players as best we can to allow them to go out on the field and focus on playing football and winning games and being successful. A lot of times they've had to do it sometimes against the odds, but we want to be very deliberate about this and make sure that we're giving them everything that we possibly can to ensure that their performance is at the highest level possible.
You take over the post May 12th. Is there a first order of business? So everything that you've just said right now, what does become the approach? I mean, do you communicate with players? Is there still a waiting period until a new president comes on board? What is the first order of business when you take over on May 12th?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I want to do is I want to thank Earl Cochrane for the work that he's done for Canada Soccer. In my previous role, when I joined Canada Soccer in 2016 as a director of development, Earl was a great resource for me. He helped me immensely to understand the landscape. The challenge in our country is multi-layered. It's probably a great way to put it. And one of the first things I did back then was I traveled around the country to examine the game and look at what was being done from coast to coast to coast. And there's a lot of great things that are being done there. And so there's a lot of positive things to celebrate. So, I think we can get lost sometimes in the negativity and forget to focus on some of the good work that's being done. So I want to, put it on record that there is a lot going on that's really positive and it's moving in the right direction. The first order of business for me is really a discovery phase. The next 2 weeks for me is going to be about establishing and building on the relationships that I currently have, and in some cases creating new ones and meeting with partners that I haven't spoken with yet, individuals across the country that I haven't met with. But the players are absolutely key to this. I've already sent both the men's and the women's groups a little note to let them know that I'm coming into this position on May 12th and that I've got their back. I think they know that. I hope they know that. As a former player, I can understand their perspective really well, and I support them 100%. But we want to try and get back to a place where we're focusing on giving them what they need to perform on the field and to execute at the highest level. Because when we can do that, we know we're going to be successful. So it's really, again, about getting back to focusing on football and try to get some of these discussions out of the way as best we can.
A lot of what you're talking about too, having experienced being a player, the relationships that you have still being a part of the organization, and there's been such a call for more former players to have a voice within Canada Soccer. Do you recognize that importance? Do you already feel that acceptance because of the knowledge you bring?
My phone certainly does. It's been buzzing and dinging all afternoon. I've been getting messages from former teammates, people across the game at all levels. And I think there's a general excitement about, the involvement of former players in leadership roles in the sport, both men and women. And that's something that I think is really important. You see the role that Diana Matheson's playing with Project 8. It's outstanding. It's something that I think everyone is supportive of and getting behind. So, when you can have that level of insight, operating at a high level in your sport, you can focus on football and you can focus on the sport and really make that the decision making process for you. Always want to have player centered decision making. What's in the best interest of the players? And it's not just about focusing on the elite level, the national teams. It's about focusing on players at every level of the game. And I think the fortunate thing for me is that I've been able to work at every level of the game and play at every level of the game of our system. So I have a deep understanding of what those challenges and barriers are. And I also know that the only way that we're going to solve some of those challenges and barriers is by building relationships and working collaboratively with all of our member associations across the country, all the different leagues across the country, with the professional clubs, with the national teams, with the coaches and the players, and working as a team. And that's, I think, the thing that I'm really most excited about in this role is the opportunity to work as one to take the game forward in a positive direction.
Well, you've amassed many teammates along the way. You used to be in media as well. You've worn many hats. I'm one of your former teammates.
I
So
know.
it's great to see everything you've been giving back. But here's the thing, you have interim right now as part of your title. Do you perhaps want that to just say general secretary?
I didn't seek this out.
Mhm.
It wasn't something that I really paid a great deal of thought to. But when I was asked by Charmaine if I was willing to step up, again, I didn't hesitate. It's for me. This has been my team my whole life, and I'm just being asked to play a different role in that team. But I'm very confident in my ability to do that because I know I've got great teammates around me. Every great team that I've been part of as a player, as a coach, has always been about teamwork. It's always been about putting the group ahead of your own individual wants and needs. And hopefully I'll have the support of my colleagues. I'm confident that I will. But they'll know that I have their backs and I'll look out for them and I'll do what's best for the game and what's best for the organization. But first and foremost, I'll do what's best for the players. because without the players, we don't have a sport. And we need to make sure that we look after them at every level of the game, not just at the national team level, at the grassroots level as well. So that's going to be the focus moving forward.
Many levels to look at, but obviously at the top as well, Jason, we know that there is a current labor negotiation going on between Canada Soccer, the men's and women's team, and Canada Soccer had made public what the contract was and what they were offering to the players. That, of course, was before Nick Bontis and before Earl Cochrane had stepped down. Does that contract still stand, or has it been put on hold until the new president and general secretary come on board?
That's a great question, Andy. I start officially on May 12th. The next 2 weeks for me is really a discovery period. So as you can imagine, I've been on calls all day, calls for the last few days, getting up to speed on a lot of different things, a lot of different aspects and projects that we're working on. And obviously the player negotiations are first and foremost one of our major priorities. So I need to get across that and need to get up to speed on that. That'll involve discussions with lawyers, obviously, but also discussions with players and building those relationships again. Obviously, with my role as an assistant coach on the men's side, they're very familiar, and that won't be a difficult process. But it's been a while since I've been involved with the women's team, going back to 2016, the Olympics in Rio. I was part of John's coaching staff there, so I have established relationships with some of the players on the women's national team already. But I almost need to reintroduce myself to them and rebuild those relationships and have them understand that I'm here to help and I'm here to try and find a solution so that we can all get back to focusing on playing football and enjoying the success of our teams on the pitch.
Well, Jason, I mean, your excitement is palpable. Your love for this sport, and in particular, the sport in this country, everyone can see that. You wear it on your sleeve. So we're looking forward to this new adventure for you as you take over as interim general secretary on May 12th. And we look forward to what that relationship will also look like with the players. Thank you so much for taking the time here on One Soccer.
Thanks, Andy. Much appreciated.